Hello everybody, for today's very special holiday Christmas beer review, we'll be taking a look at Harivestoun Brewery's Ola Dubh. This is their 30th anniversary special release brew. Well, I hope everybody out there is having a very good Christmas and happy holidays, and everybody's getting what they wanted old St. Nick to bring them. But this beer review, I wanted to wait until Christmas to do, a very special day, obviously, for a very special beer. In fact, this is quite possibly the absolute rarest thing that I own. I've been keeping it in my cellar since June. I purchased this in June later this year, so it's been in there for a good, 6 months or so now, give or take. And, or July, I can't remember which one. And like I said, this is probably the absolute most limited, special edition, rarest thing that I own. This comes from a brewery called Harivestoun, which is in Scotland. I know it looks like it's spelled Harivestoun, but I looked up how to pronounce this and the beer name. It looks like Ola Dubh, but apparently it's Ola Dubh. Like the B and the H make a V sound, so I want to get the pronunciation properly. Ola Dubh by Harivestoun Brewery. And this is an extremely special beer, not just because it was brewed only one time and that these are individually hand-numbered bottles, but this is a beer that has been aged in Highland Park Scotch whiskey barrels, which has a special place in my heart because Highland Park is my absolute favorite Scotch whiskey to drink. Apart from beer, I would love to do Scotch reviews, but I'm nowhere near well versed in it enough to do so. But I love drinking Scotch. It's one of my favorite is Highland Park. I mean, their Scotch is like the best. I have not found anything better. So when I found a beer that was brewed in my favorite Scotch's, whiskey barrels, I had to have it. So this is going to be a pretty long beer review and a lot of reading before we even get to the review itself, so just kind of settle in here. But on the front, this has been signed by the head brewer, the master of wood, and individually numbered, as you can see there. Mine was bottled on June 13th, and it is number 7,754. It's brewed in Scotland. It is 8% alcohol by volume. I have a feeling, though, that it may be bottle conditioning. I'm not positive. There's no cork, so I could be wrong. But I have a feeling it has gotten close to the 10% mark, if it is a bottle conditioning beer, at least by now. And as far as just the information goes, I'm just going to read you guys everything. Also, it has a metal charm on it with the Highland Park logo hanging there in this foil. I mean, you can just tell it's something special. And it says this is their limited special 30th edition reserve anniversary Ola Dubh, which I believe means black oil, if I'm not mistaken. It says, ale matured in Highland Park whiskey casks, aged in first fill sherry butts, formerly used to mature Highland Park's award-winning 30-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. Harivestoun are delighted to release this unique bottling to celebrate 3 decades of dedicated craft brewing. Please join us in a toast. And so this is kind of a collaboration of sorts between, I suppose, Highland Park and this brewery. Ola Dubh Ale, this unique bottling has been produced in a very small batch. That's the way we have done things for the last 3 decades at Harivestoun, and the way we plan to do them for a good deal longer after that. Now, all the real reading is on this box here. This is also probably the most expensive beer I've ever bought. For that single lone bottle, it was $20. So it's something quite special. And this says Harivestoun Brewery. It has some information about their brewery here, and it also has information about Highland Park's, Scotch whiskey distillery. I'm not going to read. I'm not going to read both of those, but I am going to read their info about this beer. It says Ola Dubh Ale. Every bottle of this extremely limited release Ola Dubh 30th Anniversary Ale has been individually numbered. Our ale has been aged for up to 6 months. That is a very significant amount of time. Most places will do it by, like 6 to 10 weeks, mostly. This is a beer that has been bourbon barrel aged for 6 months in first fill sherry butts formerly used to mature Highland Park's award-winning 30-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. These hand-selected butts add subtle whiskey notes to what is already a complex ale with its chocolatey mouthfeel and distinctive bittersweet finish. The high ABV has been deliberately created to stand up to and blend with the intensity of flavor created by the infused wood. Why not settle down with a glass and tell us if you think we have delivered something a wee bit special? You can post your comments at their Twitter. You can also learn more about their other delicious craft beers at Harivestoun.com. So this is just going to be something really special. I looked online, and it is categorized as an old ale, not a stout, even though it's black oil. So I don't know if it's kind of been a toss-up about what that is. I'm going to grab my glass here. I will be drinking this naturally out of my Duvel snifter glass. It is the best glass for assessing beers, and this probably demands the best glassware. I'm going to kind of see if I can take this foil off separately, which it looks like I will be able to, because I'm hoping they have a cool cap underneath. Yes, they do. It's got their logo right there on it, and I'm definitely going to want to save this charm also. I like to hang, I've only had 2 beers in my lifetime so far that had charms on them, and I like to hang those off the edge of my beer fridge, so that'll make a nice one. Alright, without further ado, this has been my probably most long-awaited beer review, even more so than the Dogfish Head 120. Let's get the cap off and see what it's all about. I'm going to take this cap off extremely careful. Cap is off. Straight into the beer glass. The color, wow, that's almost pitch black coming straight out. I'm going to give this just a strong center pour. Hardly any head potential on that at all. It is barely even whitening on the top of the beer there. If it did form a head, it would be a quite dark brown head from what I can tell. There is absolutely no reason to hold this into the light because black oil describes this perfectly. It is onyx jet black. Probably one of the blackest beers I have ever seen. Let's give it a smell. Oh wow, that is very complex. There's definitely large notes of Scotch, and make no mistake, this is not bourbon barrel whiskey we're dealing with. This is like a single malt Scotch taste and smell. It has notes of slight citrus with the whiskey. If you've ever had Highland Park, it kind of has a green apple wood sort of like vibe to it. There's chocolate, malt, tons of malt, vanilla, caramel, huge amount of whiskey. As it sits here in the glass, it's starting to become also like bourbon as well, with those kind of warm, butterscotchy, buttery sort of bourbon notes. There's a slight sour tang to it also, which is coming from the Scotch barrel aging, as well as it being in first fill sherry butts, sherry wine. So I'm even picking up some very light dark fruit tones like you'd get from a Belgian quad, like black cherry, black plum, black grape. Everything kind of mingles together, and it's just a very interesting smelling beer, frankly like nothing I've smelt before. So I wait with bated breath to taste this, so let's do so. Oh wow. Extremely malty. This beer is all over the place with a very complex, taste to it. It's got plenty of bourbon, bittersweet, chocolate, and malt. There's also sherry like wine-ish sort of notes. And there's also Scotch in there as well. It's almost like 3 different types of alcohol within this one single brew. You've got that wine-ish sherry alcohol, those more kind of sour, acidic sort of Scotch whiskey type alcohol, and there's also some bourbon alcohol. I'm also getting coffee and bittersweet chocolate. The body on this is a little bit thin, which is probably the only thing about the entire beer that is slightly disappointing. If this thing had a thicker mouthfeel, I would have absolutely zero reason not to give this a perfect 10 out of 10 beer. And that's just the mouthfeel. Head potential is not something I like to rate a beer on, because when a beer has been aging long enough, or you know, it has enough alcohol in it, you don't get much of a head. And so that's not the brewer's or the beer's fault. It's alcohol's fault. So I'm not going to critique it on the fact that it didn't really form a head, because that's not a bad thing at all. But with a beer of this price and magnitude and the kind of reputation that precedes it, I expect everything to be just absolute 100% on point, perfect with this beer. When you're given, you know, this kind of presentation at $20 for a single bottle with the little charm and everything, and it's almost close to all that. The only thing that it needs is just a thicker mouthfeel. If this thing could just, if they had like a nitro version of this beer, oh my god, it would be fantastic. But that's the only thing, is that it has a little bit of a lighter, thin body, which does not pair well with the rest of the tastes necessarily. And I can't really demerit it that much for its body, because, you know, body aside, the flavors are just incredibly good. Yeah. At the end of the day, it is a almost like a, you can't call it a stout because it's not a stout, it's an old ale, kind of like curmudgeon. It is a very strong, malt forward, really no hops about it beer. That's what characterizes an old ale, is just that intense amount of hops, almost to molasses sort of level. It is that, and it is Scotch. Yeah, so if you like Scotch whiskey, if you're a fan of Highland Park, and you're a fan of old ales, or really even like porters or stouts, you would like this. So as far as a rating goes, honestly, I'd give it like a 9.89 out of 10. It is so close to being a perfect 10. It just needs a thicker, creamier mouthfeel, and it would be perfect. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my beer review of probably my rarest beer from my cellar. I've still got some good stuff back there, don't you worry. And also, I have a very special treat in store for upcoming videos. I'm not going to spoil what it is yet, but it's going to be a pretty massive special thing, and you will know when I do it. But anyway, that has been my review of Harivestoun Brewery's 30th anniversary Ola Dubh beer. Hope you guys enjoyed this beer review as always. Hope you're having a Merry Christmas. Hope you have a good New Year's, and hope you got everything that you wanted for Christmas. And I hope that you drink some good beer for the season also. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it as always. Take care.